Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Waiting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's John Pollock here alongside Waiting. Way I would ask you how you're doing, but this is this has been a tumultuous day worldwide, and I think that's going to be the majority of our discussion here off the top is today was the day that, as much as you have been following all of the effects of the coronavirus, and like today it became just something so much larger. And that's not to downplay previously, but it was as though today the entire world now understands how severe this is.
Yeah. I would say maybe on this side of the world, in other parts of the world, this has been at this level for a while now. But certainly a big shift over the past 24 hours as far as I think the general public's attitudes towards this whole thing. And but man, by the end of the evening, it just feels like it was one thing after another. But before we even talk about anything, join me, John. Let's just pause and take a big, deep breath and just relax, because it's really easy to get ramped up about all this stuff right now. And let's just remember to be like calm and civil, and we'll get through it, everybody.
Okay. Let's, on three, let's inhale. 1, 2. Exhale.
There we go. So yeah, what would you like to talk about?
Do you want to start with the World Health Organization, or do you want to talk about... let's start there, because today the World Health Organization declared that this is a pandemic. And this seemed to be like the official pronouncement that how significant this is, the cases that are spreading. There are now, of the latest figures, over 120,000 cases worldwide, over 1,000 cases in the U.S. Those numbers are growing and are probably going to be dated by the time people are listening to this on Thursday. And, it is where it starts to really intersect with your own day-to-day routine and life. And that's kind of what occurred today for many people, where you're suddenly seeing all of these events either postponed or canceled outright. We saw, conventions like E3 just eliminated. Coachella was postponed. Then it just grew that much bigger into the evening as the big one. The NBA has suspended their season after a unnamed player from the Utah Jazz has tested positive for the virus. So that... it's unnamed according to them? I just saw the release from the NBA. They didn't name the player.
It's absolutely not unnamed. Plenty of reporters, at least, have been talking about Rudy Gobert as the player who was who presumably has tested positive.
Right. Yeah. And that to me was where this was going to, this is where this inevitably was going for any sports leagues, was once, and this was talked about earlier this week, about what happens when there is a player that is inflicted and the effect that's going to have. And for the NBA, it shut down their season. Their season is now suspended. The NHL is not following suit, at least as of now. They did put out a statement. Their games are going to continue, which bring about a lot of questions too. There are a lot of shared facilities among many of these NHL and NBA teams, but there's just so much that it's unknown. Where is this going to increase? You're watching just the cases just multiplying by the day. What are we ultimately in store for, and how prepared is everybody to deal with this? And of course, this is going to extend to the world of professional wrestling, and namely WrestleMania weekend, that as of today, I can't fathom how you go ahead with it now.
Yeah. We should also mention that by the time people might be listening to this, I believe on Thursday, Tampa officials are scheduled to meet up to discuss large gatherings in the area. And we shall find out whether or not, any official jurisdiction will come down for WrestleMania itself. But I have to say, following today, I would imagine a great deal of the public, I don't know how much how in the mood people even are to, go to a large event such as WrestleMania. It's certainly made us reconsider our trip and the Q&A that we're holding. So, those of you who have bought tickets, we will certainly keep you updated about whatever happens, probably in the next couple days. But, I have to say personally, I'm not even really so much in the mood, to watch anything, any live sporting events or to even go to any concerts. I mean, we're kind of talking at a point right now where all this stuff is really fresh, and maybe you can, the argument I feel like I've seen so often over the past several weeks is that people are too scared over nothing. And that could certainly still be the case, but it seems like, at least from my perception, it seems like the public is starting to be okay with a bit of OCD when it comes to this stuff, because it's, it is better than the alternative.
Yeah, I mean, a few things to add to that. Tonight, President Donald Trump addressed the nation, and they have instituted a 30-day travel restriction between Europe and the United States. That's going to go into effect this Friday night at midnight. Will not include the United Kingdom, but that was the major news coming out of the U.S. tonight. On top of that, earlier in the day, I'm sure many people have seen this, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he's the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. He appeared today and stated that he would recommend that there not be large crowds. And he said, if that means not having any people in the audience when the NBA plays, this was obviously before the announcement tonight, when the NBA plays, so be it. But as a public health official, anything that has large crowds is something that would cause a risk to spread.
Mm-hmm. And not just large crowds, but in the case of WrestleMania, something that would invite many international travelers.
Exactly. Yes. And I'm sure that those travel restrictions are going to impact people that were planning to come over here for WrestleMania. If you are looking at this, like we have seen the cases in Washington State where they are limiting any gatherings among a number of 250 people. They are restricting those. In Ohio is also looking at these same measures. I mean, this is going to have impact. The UFC is supposed to be in Columbus, Ohio in a couple of weeks. If other states follow suit here, and the WWE is looking at the options of postponement versus empty arena shows, I mean, what would you think is going to be their course of action here?
Well, I mean, if it was any other organization, I feel like the answer would be a bit more obvious. But because this is Vince McMahon and the WWE, if it was up to them and not something that was imposed on them by the government, I feel like they would continue no matter what. Yeah, but
I just don't understand, like, the empty arena thing. Like, I was talking to somebody in the company today about, the idea and doing the empty arena show. And it just, to me, is like, first of all, this isn't something where you could say that, well, people are still going to order this on pay-per-view. It's like you don't really have that as, the driver to do this show that's going to recoup your money on pay-per-view. You'd be losing your live gate, and it'd just be like a terrible show to watch. Like, can you
a 7-hour empty arena show? Are you kidding me?
Like Edge coming out for his comeback match in an empty arena. Like, it just, to me, it'd be an awful show.
Yeah.
And I really, listen, this affects everybody in different capacities. I really feel for all of the independent shows, the independent wrestlers that are out their most lucrative weekend, potentially. independent promoters that they put so much into this from a financial standpoint that they could very well be out of this. It's not as though you can, flights that have been booked, the hotels that have been booked. I mean, it is a disaster on so many levels.
Non-refundable deposits. Just hearing the whole Sonny Ono situation that GCW went through. I mean, I imagine that was probably probably the worst of it, but imagine just little bits and pieces of that multiplied by however many people are there. So I think this is a good reminder for all wrestling fans. If you want to support your independents, please do so in the future. Maybe not this weekend, but when they're putting on an iPay-per-view in the future, or if there's a wrestler that you're planning on seeing but can't see this weekend, go and buy their shirt, order an iPay-per-view, support your local indies, because everybody's going to be taking a hit this weekend.
This is from Brett Lauderdale. He actually posted this on Tuesday of Game Changer Wrestling. Sending out good vibes and asking for them in return this morning to all my friends and colleagues and even my competitors that are stressing right now. We've all worked so hard and invested so much in these upcoming events. And unlike the big guys, we don't have insurance policies to back us up. For a lot of us, everything we have worked for is on the line. We are independent. We are small businesses with big dreams, and literal years of hard work is on the line. The show will go on until someone tells us the show can't go on, and we will work hard to cross the finish line and deliver everything as promised. So let's spread some positivity today and block out the fear, panic, and hysteria and keep pushing forward together. So again, that was on Tuesday. Game Changer Wrestling has since put out a statement today, and this is really mirrored what the WWE had said last week in that statement to ESPN. ROH has put out a message kind of about their upcoming events. All of these companies essentially were saying that we're going ahead with these shows, and ultimately it may not be up to them. That may be the intention today. That may not be a decision that they are going to have the power to make. And we have seen how this has already been affecting the Japanese scene for the last month, where it's largely that decision has been made by the government and they're following suit, and it's just created a gigantic effect on that market. And I think that's, to me, it's very tough. For no promoters here are going to be making this decision on their own because they stand to lose so much, but it's something that it's far greater, and it's going to be very tough for a lot of these companies to be able to swallow and accept this, but that's kind of the reality they're staring at. I
feel for anybody who is set to take a large financial hit from canceling a show. At the same time, think about the worst case scenario. If somebody at one of these shows was found to be sick, and was it found until a later time? Think about the mess that would create. To some of these companies, the hit can even be crippling. I don't know the specifics, of course, but I think we're at a point right now where it might be better to just exercise that responsibility to say, hey, I don't know if this should be going on. And beyond that, if I'm thinking this, I feel like plenty of attendees are probably thinking it. And, I guess, you watch Dynamite tonight, people seem to be having a decent enough time so that they could probably shut this stuff from their minds if you are going. But I just, are we in a period right now where we can even sit down to enjoy wrestling live?
Well, it's the issue is that in this moment, we don't know where the rock bottom is, when there is going to be some kind of, reduction in reported cases, when there's going to be, how bad is this going to be? And at this moment, we don't know that. We're just seeing, we're comparing the escalation to other trends in Italy, in Asia, and extrapolating that over here. And it's showcasing, similar trends now in the US. It's just been delayed by several weeks. So that's where I think the fear is going to be amplified, because you just don't know how much worse this is going to get, and how prepared various countries are to deal with a pandemic that just seems so widespread, and there's no easy way to kind of contain this at the moment. So that fear is certainly going to amplify a lot of anxieties, and it's not always the easiest thing to just tell people to, exercise, hygiene and, what you can control. That's not going to put everyone at ease, but you are somewhat powerless to all of this.
Certainly. Yeah. I will say, for some of these independent, I know we talked about WrestleMania, the idea of doing like an empty arena WrestleMania being ridiculous, but I mean, if some of these smaller shows were to put on empty arena shows, I think I'd be really curious.
I think that they also, I mean, they're also looking at something where it's, certainly you look like a spring break that was going to do, in the neighborhood of 4,000 or so people. A lot of the shows were not going to be doing anywhere close to that. And at least you could still broadcast these empty arena shows on Fight TV, and you have a way to make some money back. I could see some of them going ahead with that. The issue is also the idea of just, if we're looking 24 hours, 48 hours from now, and there is no WrestleMania on April the 5th, how many people are really traveling to this? Is it like, what are we?
Well, if it's an empty arena show, then they're not expecting travelers.
Well, that's it. And does that in a different roundabout way for some of these independent companies? Are they going to see a spike in viewership? Like, this is something like we're talking about the next month where I think like public events are going to be significantly affected by this. And what are people going to be doing at home? They're going to be watching television. They're going to be on their computers. I mean, that's going to be their form of entertainment in this period that we're living in at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it would translate to, buys for wrestling streaming services. But, ultimately, I mean, especially if you're an independent show, much of your income comes from the live gate. And how many empty arena shows can you really put on? I guess,
It's a stopgap, I think. Yeah. Like, ultimately, I don't know how many you can really get away with and doing it. And it's something that, like, again, like the NBA, they are not testing that out. The NCAA tournament, it's going to start next week with March Madness, and their male and female tournaments are going to be in empty arenas.
Yeah. Well, do they share the same arenas as the NBA?
Yeah, there's going to be opening round matches at the Amalie Arena in Tampa. I don't know all the venues off the top of my head, but they're running like major arenas, but they're going to be restricted to, very, very small numbers that will be actually able to be inside of the building.
We haven't even mentioned Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson yet.
Yeah, that's the other thing attached to this is that now you do have one of the most recognizable celebrities that becomes the public face of this disease.
Yep. And, hopefully, I don't know. Something tells me that he's not going to be the first or the last, I mean.
Right. Yeah, it's a very harrowing time. There's no form of sports or entertainment that are going to be, left out of this. This is going to affect everything.
In some ways, I think it's even silly to be talking about entertainment when, it's affecting everybody in every form of life, in every profession.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just got a message from a friend of mine who there was a positive case inside of his building. It's like we're now at that point where
Toronto?
It's not in Toronto. No, this is in the U.S. But that's like the next step of this. It's like suddenly it's someone that directly has some kind of connection to this as well. Like that's how widespread we're getting to it now. So I hope everyone listening to this is safe. Is
washing their hands, is not touching their face, and is coughing into their sleeves. What else? We can't remind people enough, John. What else? Stay at home if you're sick.
Yeah, I mean, don't by any means, if you're showing any kind of symptoms, I mean, it might not be the coronavirus, but take those extra precautions. If you are sick, do not go to work. Do not go out in public. Just take care of yourself. I would much rather that I be overly cautious and then a year from now I can look back and say I overreacted rather than I wasn't prepared enough.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I have to say, like, I've done my best to get used to, like, not touching my face. And I feel like I've gotten pretty good at it. But the first few days were a real challenge. It's not I don't know if you realize how often, we touch our faces.
Yeah, it's one of the most, isn't it? I mean, think of like the bacteria that your face comes into contact with on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
like your most it's like one of your most exposed parts of your body on a daily basis.
Well, your hands are certainly, and then your
fingernails are like I believe that's like where you can build up like the most bacteria. It's your fingernails.
The worst is like when you're thinking about not touching your face, and it just makes you want to touch your face more. So you could touch your face, just wash your hands beforehand.
All right. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Wipe often used surfaces, as the president said today.
Wipe often used surfaces?
Yes.
Okay.
Like keyboards, like tables that you use a lot, that might be publicly shared. Cell phones, those things are fucking filthy. So please wipe down your cell phones.
Use speakerphone.
What?
Use speakerphone.
Well, you can, but you're still touching your phone with your hands.
Well, it's better than having it right up against your face for 20 minutes.
Sure, yeah. Speakerphone, yeah. Let the public in on your conversations.
I mean, I can say that is a trend that I most picked up from watching Celebrity Apprentice, is that it was always on speakerphone for the cameras, and that was something that I love speakerphone. I'm not a fan of just holding the phone up. It's just
how about a Bluetooth headset?
You can do that too. There's many options that you can do. So we will have the latest up on the site regarding what the latest is as a whole, how it pertains to the industry that we are covering. But certainly, it seems like this is only going to intensify in terms of prevention and widespread effect.
At the rate of like the news that's coming out, I mean, I imagine by the time we do the hangout tomorrow, everything will be different again, or at least way more developed. So we'll be looking forward to talking to all of you about maybe any concerns that you guys might have. In addition to that, we'll have Benno on the show, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk to him because this was something that was a concern going into 16 Carat last weekend. And one of the reasons that Alex Shelley didn't come over for the tournament, I mean, there was many stories coming out of this past weekend's event. But we'll be chatting with that about all of those topics with Benno, who also has a really great rundown of his weekend there in Germany for WXW 16 Carat up on the website if you want to check that out as we speak to him on Thursday.
As well, we'll be joined by a popular poster from the Post Wrestling Forums, Alex Patel, who, if you are a member of our forums, you'll have found a very active thread right now talking about WrestleMania and the coronavirus. And Alex actually happens to be a critical care physician at a Toronto hospital, and he's been actually offering some great insight into everything that's been going on, at least, within this area. He seems very much in tune with, the story at large. So having him on the hangout as well tomorrow to further discuss it from a more educated perspective, I would say.
Okay. Few other news items. I know that this is kind of, secondary to the major stories that are going on. It was reported on Tuesday night. Ryan Satin had this on WWE Backstage, and that is that Rob Gronkowski, former NFL player with the New England Patriots, is set to join the WWE. Tony Maglio of The Wrap has since reported that a deal is in place for Gronkowski and is expected. All of this seems like we may be getting way too ahead of ourselves. Expected to make an appearance at WrestleMania that would set up a match down the road. This doesn't come out of left field, that Rob Gronkowski, of course, he did the spot at WrestleMania 33 and has always kind of flirted with a post-football career in WWE, but it seems that now is the time they are going to pull the trigger on this and bring in Rob Gronkowski, which I will say, when I first heard this, the immediate person I thought of was Cain Velasquez, and that they are going with a similar strategy of bringing in a outside star. And I just don't know, Cain Velasquez, that was a swing and the miss in terms of his introduction and utilization. And to me, it's like Rob Gronkowski comes in as kind of the shiny new toy that just further to me puts Cain Velasquez on a back burner.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a tactic that I think they've been relying on for, really their whole existence, but maybe even more so for the past several years. You know, Ronda, obviously, I think being like the big success story of bringing somebody from the outside into their world to train them as a wrestler and then, headlining shows with them, or at least, one or two shows. Ronda was a great success. Cain was a bust. I mean, Tyson Fury, I suppose, for that one show, fine. This Rob Gronkowski, I'm not a football fan, everybody. It is just their next attempt at trying to, get the casual fan who doesn't watch wrestling but might know this guy and might be curious in a celebrity boxing type of way. I don't know. Do you know much about what?
Oh, this is a major star. Like this guy is way more.
What I mean is, athletically, how do you think he will transfer?
Oh, I think it would be the athletic side of it. I don't see as being a giant transition for him. I mean, certainly pro wrestling, it requires certain other things such as, your timing and being able to kind of understand what the industry entails. But I would say from just a pure athletic standpoint, this guy is coming in ahead of, the
Cain,
the great,
Cain, I guess in terms of, on the mic, I guess.
I mean, this is a guy that has his own show. Like, he seems to, he will certainly dwarf Cain Velasquez in the charisma department as well. So, I mean, certainly the building blocks are there that if this guy's head is in it, to really succeed at this, that he could certainly blossom into something here. I should mention here, the Rap actually mentioned his first appearance is actually penciled in for the March 20th episode of SmackDown. And then he would make some kind of appearance at WrestleMania that would set up some future match. So it looks like he could be there as early as a week from Friday.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see right now. Yeah.
What do you think is the future for Cain Velasquez? Like, he's under this long-term deal. He was recently at WWE headquarters. But I mean, you couldn't have gotten off to a worse start than Cain did. Is it just a case of if they came up with a hot angle for him, all would be forgotten or do you see, to me, the actual Cain Velasquez character, that is a tough one for WWE to work into their system?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what their plan was for Cain beyond the Brock Lesnar match in Saudi Arabia, which they ended up delaying. I think it's, maybe they saw some of those videos of him doing Hurricane Ranas and felt like they could do something with him. And I'm sure in the future they still can, but it almost seems like right now they're going back to the drawing board to see if they could train this guy properly to make him an actual wrestler, maybe work on that, promo if he intends on, I don't know, talking a bit more before debuting him proper. That's what it seems like to me. But then who knows? This is a man with a lot of injuries. Who knows how he's even progressing?
And a big difference is Cain Velasquez is 37, Gronkowski is 30.
Okay, yeah, that is a big difference, sure. But I mean, we're talking about pro athletes with a lot of mileage on their bodies, right?
Yep. I mean, Gronkowski retired very early for, a player of his skill set.
What did he retire due to?
I don't know if he had a specific reason. You're definitely asking the wrong person.
So, I mean, I've heard in the past something about him and concussions. So
he has had concussions, yeah. So
yeah,
I mean that certainly comes, with its concerns.
Yeah.
This was his statement. He said when he retired, "I was not in a good place. Football was bringing me down, and I didn't like it. I was losing that joy in life. I could play right now if I wanted to play. I'm feeling pretty good. Physically, I could do it. Mentally wise, desire wise, it's not there. I'm very satisfied with where I am in life right now."
All right. Cool.
So, there you go. All right. Some other news that we have is the Raw rating from Monday night. They did their second lowest number of the year. They did 2,163,000 viewers coming off Elimination Chamber, down 4% from the week prior. And the good news was that the audience pretty much stuck around for the entire 3 hours. In several cases among their demos, the audience grew in several categories in the third hour from the first. So that's a positive sign, and it's one that we've kind of been seeing over the past month, is either minimal declines in the third hour or even some increases in the third hour. But all of that is tempered by the fact the first hour was one of their lowest first hours in the history of Raw. So it's a much smaller audience that is interested in tuning into Raw, but that more dedicated fan base that is tuning in, they're sticking around for the whole show. So it just seems like you've whittled down your audience, but that audience is one that is willing to watch the whole show.
So it means Elimination Chamber meant absolutely nothing.
It meant nothing, and it meant that interest was very low going into Raw on Monday night.
Any other factors you could see?
Not a whole lot. I mean, this wasn't like a night where there was a ton of competition, other than your cable news programming. Again, we don't get the breakdowns of the quarters, and I think that would certainly be notable to like, was people sticking around till the third hour? Were they sticking around for Edge? I mean, they put him on at the end of the second hour. I would love to see the breakdown of what the audience was for Edge, and subsequently the rest of that third hour that just was ungodly long.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, God, that main event.
It was I couldn't imagine people not tuning out in droves for that tag once they realized there's 30 minutes left in the show, and that is what is going to ride out the 30 minutes. So that would be interesting. But that was Raw from Monday night, and we continue on. John Cena is set to appear on SmackDown this Friday night in Detroit, continuing to build up the Bray Wyatt match for WrestleMania. Tom Lawler has signed with the PFL, and this is a fairly big name for the PFL to be able to get. And the deal with the PFL, for those that do not follow it, is that they do a seasonal format where you have several fights, and then if you win and qualify for the playoffs, it is a 8-person playoff that they start off, and the winner gets $1 million, which these all build up to on New Year's Eve. In the light heavyweight division, you would have to peg Tom Lawler as one of the favorites. Last year, it was won by a fighter by the name of Emiliano Sordi. And Wade, this was what I was watching on New Year's Eve before your Uber showed up to take me to Japan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he beat this fighter Jordan Johnson, who's actually a very good fighter. He was 4-0 in the UFC and then left to go join the PFL. Vinny Magalesh was also in the last season, but I would say Tom Lawler is probably among one of the guys you would definitely have your eye on at 205 pounds. And he has said that once the season starts, that is going to be his focus. And it sounds like he is not going to try and balance pro wrestling with this season of the PFL, because it's life-changing money if he can win this season.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll be cheering for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that has been through a lot of hardship in MMA over the past 4 years. So, and he brings some name value to the PFL. And then the last thing, ROH has made some updates for their pay-per-view card on Friday night. Adam Brooks, due to travel issues that the promotion cited, will not be able to make his promotional debut on Friday against Slex. So he is being replaced by Jeff Cobb, who is on the show. And they have also added Eli Isom versus Bully Ray. So that card's going down Friday night, and it's headlined by Roosh and Mark Haskins. And it's also got Dragon Lee defending the television title against Bandito on the show. And it looks like an interesting card. This is a weekend for ROH that they've kind of been building up throughout the year for of these past 2 months to try and really grab people's attention for this weekend.
And you and Mike Murray will be talking about the show?
Yeah, we're going to do a show on Sunday. We'll go through the pay-per-view, and I believe Mike's definitely going to watch the past versus present show. If I have time, I'll watch it as well. But we'll have those two shows covered coming up on Sunday. That show will be out.
Cool.
Because Way's got a big birthday weekend ahead.
Oh, huge. Yeah, I'll be sitting on the couch reading a book.
Well, what book?
I'm actually getting into powerlifting, so I'm reading this book called Starting Strength.
Oh.
It's like a really popular, from what I can gather, almost like like a textbook about like kind of the mechanics behind it.
All right. Well, keep us posted on that. Have you started lifting, or are you just like preparing?
I'm kind of like in like the educational phase right now. I've recently moved, of course, and I set up like a rack in my basement, so I'm kind of excited about it.
Okay, cool. Well, I know you just don't like move and then ask me to move when you have all this equipment. Like, be strategic about all this.
I will definitely, try not to move in the next several years.
Okay. All right, let's get into Dynamite from Wednesday night. They were in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Maverick Center. And it started off with Tony Schiavone in the back with the Young Bucks and Hangman Page asking who his partner will be. And Page says he would not team with Matt Jackson if he were the last man on earth, and asks if Nick brought his gear, almost as a joke. And as he leaves, he says his partner will be a mystery. And Matt tells Nick, "Are you even thinking of teaming up with that prick?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very, very aggressive. And this is all centered around who would the mystery partner be. And this was, I don't want to say this was bait and switch, but this was close to it, I guess, of people's expectations versus what the delivery was going to be.
Because you think people were expecting Matt?
I think it was very much designed to lead you that way. And,
yeah. I think the story made absolute sense, though, the fact that it wasn't. And
it did, but how could Page, unless this is all an elaborate story that Page somehow had something to do with the attack, how could Page have predicted that attack would happen and that Dustin would then step up? And who was the partner going to be if that was the case?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. You would have had to find out. I don't know who he was thinking. Maybe it was going to be a last minute choice. Maybe he was going to take them both on himself.
Could have been. Maybe.
Yeah.
The show started with Ortiz versus Cody.
By the way, John, is Nick injured?
Nick is not injured to my knowledge. I was kind of surprised he was there because, oh boy, we have some breaking news in just a second here. Let's just get into this now. So SmackDown has been canceled this Friday. This coming from PWInsider.com, with SmackDown and 205 Live taking place from the PC in Orlando this week.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So where was SmackDown supposed to have taken place?
Detroit.
Interesting. Okay. So why I asked was because if there's any concern that, like, did the Jazz play in the building or something? Like, why the immediate threat right now? Like, was there some connection?
Let me look. Let me look at their schedule here.
Yeah.
Utah Jazz.
Because the guy could have been like asymptomatic, but still carried the virus for several days at least. You know. So
okay. I'm just pulling up the Utah Jazz
they
schedule
played the Raptors, man.
And it was here on Monday. Is that right?
No, it was in Utah.
Oh, he was in Utah. Okay.
Wait a second, Utah? That was the same place as Dynamite.
It's not the same arena, I don't think. I think this is a smaller one, but I mean,
all the people in attendance were probably focused on on all this stuff. So it was quite impressive that they were still so lively actually on the show.
Or they were just not paying attention, or I don't know. I'm looking here. So their schedule so their last game was, what's today? The 11th?
Well, it was the Raptors on Monday, 2 days ago.
Yes.
And they played.
That was a home game for them. Dude, they played the Pistons on Saturday in Detroit.
There you go.
That's where SmackDown is.
Where does this extend? Does
no one knows. It could be this could be a long road.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Performance Center shows.
Yeah. Where were we? We were just talking about the Young Bucks attack. This is going to be one of those shows where I am multitasking as we speak, and I'm going to.
It's okay. Yeah, we're Santana versus Cody is our first match.
Right. So Cody came out with Brandy and Arn Anderson, and quickly we saw Jake Roberts appear through the crowd with the client, Lance Archer, and a holy shit chant.
And a holy shit chant. You're right. Sure. I mean, this was sort of the introduction. No real dramatic, walk on. It was just him being out there with Jake Roberts. And I'm not really that upset that he didn't get some sort of surprise run-in or anything like that. I think Lance Archer is a name that is well known to the hardcores. Clearly, the people that were in attendance right there, a lot of them chanted holy shit at him. But to the casuals at home, I mean, unfortunately, he's still not really a name. So I think this is still very much a brand new introduction for most people that are going to be seeing him on this show for the first time. And it certainly helped to have somebody like JR like put Archer over as this, here's a main eventer and a star from Japan, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Did you like the introduction, like the way they did it coming through the crowd here?
It was a pretty neutral introduction, in my opinion. You know, nothing that immediately says, wow, this guy's going to be a big deal. But it's, to me, I think he'll make his name from his actual performances, not necessarily from the introduction.
Yeah, this totally took the crowd's attention away, and they were just focused on Archer and Jake, but they did get them back here. Ortiz got flipped into the steps, and then we had Santana working the leg of Cody for a period of time. Santana is constantly getting involved here. He distracts referee Paul Turner, allowing Cody to get crotched on the top, and then Brandy comes over, removes her belt, and whips Santana. And Cody hit a superplex onto Ortiz. Santana then squared off with Arn on the floor and got hit with a suicide dive from Cody, then caught Ortiz and hit him with a gourd buster onto the ramp. Archer is getting ready to jump the rail, and he's stopped by Jake, who just whispers into his ear, and then the two of them walk away, and that's the last we see of them. Crossroads gets stopped by a knee strike from Ortiz, and then it's Cody going after Ortiz's knee with a dragon screw leg whip, applies the figure four. Ortiz reverses it, but then Cody regains the dominant position with the figure four and submits him in 11 minutes, 32 seconds. The idea here that Cody has now perfected a submission hold for the blood and guts match to win with. I thought that was really smart here to get this over, and really was kind of the focus of both men's attack was going for the legs.
I love it whenever, you know, a wrestler can educate an audience on a brand new move, provided that it's in the right setting. You know, I actually preferred like this to, like, let's say Edge introducing the arm triangle in that little specific moment, which I didn't actually love. But I think with Cody doing the figure four, it makes a lot of sense. First of all, I mean, Arn Anderson is his coach. And I mean, Cody really has modeled himself after Ric Flair anyway. I would say he's almost modeled himself after Flair in AEW more so than he's even modeled himself after his own father. It's a nice, you know, old school bare bones submission move. And he's an old school bare bones type of babyface. So I think it's a good fit.
And, you know, and it was also, you know, a move that Dusty would use quite a lot. In terms of Monday, though, are you saying that Copeland did not properly educate the audience to his new arm triangle?
Jeez, that's a different move, isn't it?
He loved those puns.
Oh God,
like the execution.
Yeah.
That was I was our Edge and Trish. They would always go for the heavy puns.
Canadians love their puns.
They do, apparently. So yeah, I really like this, and I thought Ortiz did really well in this singles match. I thought, like, this guy's got a lot of charisma. This was like a really good opening match on the show.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty average match, you know, by AEW standards, but I thought the crowd was very engaged, and, you know, they established a new submission as well as all the fanfare afterwards for the blood and guts match.
From there, we go on, and Ortiz attacks him with the Mad Ball, and then Arn enters with Matt Jackson, and Omega runs in as backup, and Jim Ross is stating how important it is that no one gets injured before blood and guts. They have to be at their healthiest for that match. The Inner Circle appear on the screen. It's Jericho with Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager. They've put the AEW roster on notice, and they are going to beat the hell out of you Pumpkinhead dipshits.
Pumpkinhead?
Did I hear this right?
Pumpkinhead. Yeah, no, you heard it right.
It was Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, but who's got the Pumpkinhead? Cody?
Kenny Omega, maybe? Little bit?
Pumpkin?
I don't know.
Maybe a bigger head. Yeah.
I thought of the Crash Test Dummies song when he said this.
Yeah. Yeah, none of those guys I would classify as Pumpkinhead-like.
They ask, where's Nick? Because Nick did not run in here for the save. And it was something I was aware. I think everyone noticed he wasn't there. And he said, we ran into him. And it looks like he has a bit of a headache. And there is Nick Jackson underneath a garage door, bleeding from the mouth. And this garage door is coming down on Nick until the Elite finally arrive in the back, and he goes out on a stretcher and is taken away.
Yeah, poor guy, sandwiched between this ground and the garage door. He was mid-crush. He's in the middle of being crushed.
Yep, this was a pretty heavy angle here with Nick Jackson.
So sorry, I forgot what you said earlier. He's not cleared?
Sorry, no, I don't think that there's anything preventing Nick. Like, Kenny was hurt, but I hadn't heard anything about Nick. Nick, his wife was due.
Oh, that's
he had
right.
mentioned on being the Elite. I wasn't even expecting him to be on this show because he hasn't provided any update if she has given birth yet.
That's right. Oh, by the way, they're on Free the Delete. Did
you see it? I did not see it today.
So, I mean, if you watch Being the Elite this week, they had like okay, just to catch everybody up, the Bucks showed up at the Hardy compound, and so this week, Matt Hardy explained why he wanted the Bucks there, and he wanted the Bucks there to take away what the fuck does he call the thing?
The Zenith?
The Zenith, yeah. He needed the Bucks to get rid of the Zenith in his body. And the Zenith comes out in the form of Matt Hardy's Vince McMahon impression. So, like, he's talking to the Bucks, and all of a sudden, like, Matt breaks into like a Vince voice, and that's how we know the Zenith is trying to control him and come out. So the Bucks super kick Matt Hardy, setting him into a coffin, and then along with Senior Benjamin, they bury him before Matt Hardy says thank you, and that was really it. That was that. So that the Bucks have helped bury the Zenith, Matt Hardy, and we're waiting for Matt Hardy to be reborn. Was
this a lot like the time they did the exorcism of Cody?
The exorcism of Cody.
Remember that Being the Elite episode when he was doing all the WWE speak, and they had to. Oh. That was one of the famous episodes.
Yes. I guess kind of like that. Yeah.
After the attack, they had Nyla Rose and Bea Priestley versus Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. And one thing I've started to enjoy, they don't do it for everybody, but for certain people, and it was Chris Statlander here, is that they have the graphic with their name, their record, and they put like a little line there, and hers was just trying to avenge loss to Nyla Rose at Revolution. I think that's a little nice added touch. It's that not everyone knows who Chris Statlander is, but if you don't, here's what she's fighting for.
It's good. Yeah, it's really nice. The ones they have for Paige are often really funny. They always make their way to like Reddit.
Yeah, and this one was just more matter of fact, and I think that you can have fun with them, but you can also make them serious as well.
Mm.
Or it's just setting everyone up for the Matt facts to return.
Yep, pretty much.
So this was one where it seemed like the audience did get into this at various points. They had Nyla Rose dominating Shida at the start, and Priestley was tagging in. They went through a break, and B gets draped on the corner, and Shida suplexes her partner, Chris Statlander, onto Priestley, leading to a chant of "Holy Shida."
They have to run with that. I mean, that's got to be a t-shirt next week. Come on.
They were really into Shida in this.
Yeah, I thought she was the most over of anybody.
I did too. Rose stopped her from tagging out, and Shida gets draped on the top, and Rose goes for that knee drop off the top, but misses. Shida then hits a Michinoku driver onto Nyla. Priestley makes the save, and then Shida delivers a superplex to Priestley, turns around, spear by Nyla Rose, followed by the Beast Bomb, and Rose pins Shida. And then afterwards, it's Bea Priestley that attacks Nyla Rose and grabs the title. And I thought, like, man, you had really focused on Shida here, and I really didn't like Nyla Rose, they've really, you thought they were going with like this monster role, and she was kind of in like this babyface position by the end of this.
I don't know if I necessarily interpreted it that way. I mean, I think, this is going to be well, we'll see. We'll see. She could be a babyface, but I'm with you. I was a little disappointed because, I mean, something tells me that they didn't expect Shida to be the focused one, or maybe be that popular in this match. I don't know, because it certainly seemed like all the momentum after this match was on her, and I think people wanted to see her be the one to win. Unfortunately, they had pegged her as the one to lose the match, so I was disappointed to see her take the pin. I thought crowd was more behind Shida than Statlander, whose momentum is kind of like dissipated after Revolution. So, Bea Priestley, I mean, really at this point, Nyla Rose is just in need of, like, I suppose, wins over strong competitors who can give her good matches, just to kind of build her up as, a division leading champion. And I assume later on you'll get to Shida. So this will probably just be a TV match between that Rose will just beat Priestley in.
Yeah. Christopher Daniels did this this video on a green screen doing a parody of the Dark Order and made a joke about people waiting for a higher power, where he smiled to the camera with the inside joke and kept saying, "Screw the Dark Order," and said that their momentum that they had accumulated ended when they got into the ring with Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. It was all a lie and a smokescreen to make people think that Daniels was the Exalted One, when the truth is there is no Exalted One. And he challenges Stu Grayson and Evil Uno to singles matches, whether it be on Dynamite, Dark, or the pay-per-view, or in a parking lot. He says, when no one shows up to prove they are the Exalted One, that will prove that no Exalted One exists. And then about an hour later, it was announced that the Exalted One would appear on next week's show.
Right, okay. So, yeah. How would this have proven that the Exalted One didn't exist? This is almost like a second grader's threat, you know?
Yeah, it was sort of the idea that if I am punishing these two, that certainly the Exalted One will run out to save either of them when they have never, this Exalted One has never felt that need to do so before. But, I thought Daniels was fine in this, but it was kind of by the end of this, it was almost like the Exalted One announcement kind of outdated this setup of these two matches that we're going to find out the Exalted One next week before we probably even see these matches.
I feel like if the intent was to, by the end of this match, just, convey that the Exalted One will finally be revealed next week, I feel like there would have probably been a better way to do it than perhaps with this sort of Chris Daniels Dark Order parody video. By the end of it, it just felt a little confusing, honestly, and it wasn't really all that entertaining.
Yes, and the next, I guess, task is for, the Dark Order is about to get another big focus, and they've kind of gotten away from it, and the show has improved exponentially with the Dark Order in a much more reduced role. And they did tape one of these matches for Dark with Christopher Daniels beating Stu Grayson, so I guess that'll air next Tuesday.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you're right about that, but if it's the Dark Order led by somebody like a Matt Hardy, it might be a completely different faction.
Yeah, it's going to depend on who the leader is and if that person can carry this group into being something more enjoyable by the masses. MJF, the Butcher, and the Blade versus Jurassic Express. This was another match the crowd seemed to get behind quite a bit. They isolated Luchasaurus and worked on his knee. They had this one clever spot where the Blade and MJF hung onto Luchasaurus's legs, and he had to walk through quicksand to his corner, and then they halted him, but he broke through, tagging Jungle Boy. And Marco Stunt later came in, and he just attacks the Butcher, and Jungle Boy assists him with a swinging DDT. And when he hit this, dude, the Butcher just got spiked on his head, and I just gasped and was so happy that this man was okay when he got up on the floor, because this looked frightening if you watch this.
It's a dangerous sport.
There was a double chokeslam by Luchasaurus onto MJF and the Blade. Then the Butcher is alone with Luchasaurus. They go at it. Then Stunt starts stomping on MJF. The place goes wild. Jungle Boy pulls Marco away, and Marco turns around and he shoves Jungle Boy. And they showed some dissension between the two. Jungle Boy climbs to the top. The Bunny tries to distract him, allowing enough time for the Blade to shove him to the floor. Wardlow attacks Luchasaurus, and MJF taps out Marco Stunt with the Salt of the Earth.
I thought this was a really good TV match. Everybody in the Jurassic Express were fantastic here. All three of them feel special in their own way. Usually it's like, Luchasaurus, I think, getting all the attention. But I mean, Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt together as a team are fantastic. And the contrast and there's just the combination of the three is really good. I also really like the heels here. MJF is always great, of course, but I was really impressed with Andy Williams. To me, he's been like almost a standout quietly here, of this Bunny and the Blade type of thing. So he works really well, especially with the smaller guys here. They had a lot of really interesting interaction between he and Luchasaurus as the two big guys in this match. I thought it was fun.
It was a fun match, yes. I thought that I actually liked the interaction with Luchasaurus and the Butcher. I think the Butcher is like a fun character that can work with a lot of different guys and especially serve as that base for Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt. And I think someone that was a really good hire.
I get confused. The Butcher is Andy Williams.
Yes, the Butcher is Andy Williams.
The other guy's the Blade.
Yes.
So the Butcher uses the Blade. Is that it?
I think that the Blade may eventually morph into the Tan. That will be his new gimmick.
The Tan.
Yeah, because he is
Butcher and the Tan.
Yes, he is like orange.
Yeah, all that Buffalo Sun.
It's clearly. Then Tony first we had the Darby Allin video. So it's in black and white, and he's wearing a Chris Jericho cardboard cutout face with the eyes cut out. And he has a body bag attached to his truck, and inside the body bag is an unknown body wearing a Sammy Guevara cutout face with the eyes gone, and he just drives this body bag across the ground. And that was the video.
Did not look like a fun ride at all for whoever was playing Sammy Guevara in this.
It's probably one of this guy's buddies that was more than happy to just get dragged by a truck.
Oh my goodness!
I'm sure it was a human in there.
So he's done the body bag thing before, right? In
AEW? Yeah, that was his big
But
his
in
spot.
AEW, did he do it?
I don't think he's done it in AEW yet, but that was a big evolved spot where he'd get into the body bag and then get thrown to the floor or something, and with the Ethan Page feud that stands out.
So yeah, it looks like this feud is continuing, and maybe we're going to get some sort of body bag thing.
Tony Schiavone interviews Dr. Britt Baker. She comes out in Salt, Utah. She has her Starbucks, and this week it was Tone with an accent on the E. Tone, yes.
Tone.
It's replaced Otis and Mandy Rose as my favorite long-term story in terms of how much mileage she can get at. Like, how many versions of Tony can this woman do?
How many is she at now? Like 5?
I think it's only like 3, I think.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
That she's had the name on the actual Starbucks cup.
Well, you could do Anthony, Tone.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many that you could keep this going. Like, you could just make it ridiculous, like TONN or
that wouldn't work.
TOWN. That hasn't been done.
Tone.
That is town. That is. I was thinking of TONE, which would be tone. Has she done tone?
She just did it on this episode.
Oh right.
Alrighty. Well,
I'm already out. I would be really bad at this for the longevity of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gets interrupted by Big Swole, who calls her Brittany, and don't act like I don't watch the product. And Baker says, you are irrelevant. The only person in your household that people care about that wrestles is your boyfriend. And she comes back informing her that she is married. And I would compare this week. I don't know if that would be the case. I would say Big Swole had a much better outing than her significant other on Monday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Big Swole is way more relevant right now than, unfortunately, Cedric. But, it set up a really good line.
It did.
She said, I'm married, baby.
It was a great comeback here for Big Swole. And then Baker took the coffee and threw it at her and really exposed the gimmick here. It's just water.
I was very disappointed. Come on. If you're going to throw coffee, it better be coffee.
And it's like, what? It's inconvenient if someone threw water at you. I get it, but it's...
Oh, yeah. Well, the bigger inconvenience, I guess, would be her dry cleaning bill if she actually got coffee stains on her. But
coffee, it would be like a serious attack. Like if hot coffee was thrown on you, that's a big angle.
This wasn't even hot. It was like lukewarm.
No, it was just like she had been throwing there was like a water bottle. It's like she got hit by like Evian or something. It was kind of like you're expecting some horrendous reaction because there's hot coffee that she's going to sell, but it's clearly water.
Clearly,
and she sold it as though it was water as well. It wasn't like she was trying to put the wool over everyone's eyes either.
Clearly, this is what matters most to you and I: the authenticity of the portrayal of the coffee.
Listen, that said, I thought Big Swole, like her, I thought she had a really good segment here with Baker.
I thought so too. I thought the segment, Britt Baker is always fun with Tony Schiavone. I feel like this thing is starting to, maybe, the act is sort of starting to run dry, but it totally picked up once Big Swole came in. I love Big Swole's delivery. I love her energy. I'm really glad to finally be able to see her get an actual role. I'm happy to see Baker
get a microphone. Like, she can talk.
She's fantastic, and I'm happy to see Baker actually get an opponent to focus on too.
Joey Janela and Private Party against the Death Triangle. Pac, Phoenix, and Pentagon Jr. If they give me 6-mans every week with Death Triangle, I'll be really satisfied.
I think they're fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Just, it was brought up last week, and they certainly have, if they did want to introduce those 6-man tag titles, they certainly have. It's not a case of the women's tag division in WWE where they introduced these belts when there was no division to speak of. In AEW's case, if they were to introduce those titles, you've got 6 or 7 teams right off the jump.
It is true. I was wrong last week when I said I didn't think there were many trios. Clearly, there are plenty of trios in AEW. At the same time, I don't think AEW needs more belts. I'd be more than happy with a trios tournament, once a year that you can use to promote your trios, makeshift trios even. But another set of belts running around, I don't think that's really necessary.
It's you can see the format on Dynamite. It's typically designed for 5 matches and trying to fit whoever. Now, certainly the argument of having a regular 6-man on the show, it will inherently get more people on the show each week. We had 2 6-mans on this show, but I'm not in a race to get more titles introduced, but certainly they have cultivated at least trios teams that could populate such a division. I'm going to preface this last hour of the show really by.
Oh, this is when shit hit the fan. This is when
I was half watching this.
Tom Hanks got the coronavirus. The NBA player got sick, and then the NBA got completely wiped out or suspended.
Yeah, I mean, dude, at 9:00 was Trump's speech, and that felt like that was 5 news cycles ago.
Oh, yeah.
From 9 till 10, it was just utter insanity.
No, I'm with you, John. So apologies, everybody. This is going to be the most detailed analysis. The world was crumbling around us.
They hit Silly String onto Phoenix. Did a big tag to Joey Janela. He was in there with Pentagon. Janela had Pac on his shoulders on the apron, and Cassidy kicked off the shoulders to dive onto Phoenix on the floor. Janela then hit an elbow off the top for Pac, only got a 2 count, and then Phoenix and Pentagon hit the package piledriver foot stomp on Janela. Phoenix dove to the floor with the Tope Con Hero, but what was cool here was they did the package piledriver and foot stomp, rolled Janela over for Pac to hit the Black Arrow and pin Janela. Death Triangle are awesome, and I think that this could really work with Phoenix and Pentagon having Pac part of the presentation as well, and it just seems like they're different characters, but they mesh very well, and not just in terms of the in-ring. It's also their styles, their personalities. It really clicks, and I thought that Private Party and Janela were great opponents for them.
Yeah, they're all dark and brooding, and
This company loves dark and brooding. That is the demo that they are after. Dark and brooding. Dark and brooding,
yeah. Anyway, I thought they were great, as you would expect. It seems like Pac could be a missing ingredient that'll really help the Lucha Brothers feel like they're a major act within AEW. Now they have a voice, somebody who can speak for them, and these matches are always going to be hot stylistically. I think they mesh really well too. So, I also thought in this match, you could really see Janela's potential as a lead babyface in the future.
Yes.
I thought he was it worked. It absolutely worked. I mean, obviously the crowd really likes him, but just even him as a wrestler and also as just, this lead hero type, I think it makes sense.
They all attack Janela and Private Party, and they're just, applying submissions and posing when Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends come out to make the save, and that ended that segment. So obviously where they are going, and that announcement would come in moments. Lexi Nair interviewed Dustin Rhodes. He is now in his gear with his paint on because he's pissed off, Way. He's pissed off with the Inner Circle, and he is stepping up to be Hangman Page's partner, whether Page likes it or not, because I'm fixing to kick some ass and do some cowboy shit.
Yeah.
This guy's the underrated promo guy in this company.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I imagine he's probably the type to give plenty of pointers to other people as well. But he's been anytime he's had to appear in a backstage interview or like a countdown show, he's been tremendous. So he brings like a level of, I think, I don't know, expertise and wisdom and just a veteran's kind of ability that you really don't get from too many other people here.
We got the Tough Enough tryout videos where talent have sent in their videos to team with Sean Spears. This included Simon Miller, Anthony Bowens, and your man Sugar Dunkerton.
My man?
Yes. You were saying, remember?
What?
We were talking about him last week, and you were saying he's on the For the Culture show?
Oh, okay.
Yep. So anyway, it was just a bunch of promos ranging from okay to yikes.
So they're like, I wasn't sure what they were actually doing here. And it looks like they're actually looking for legitimately like trained, unsigned wrestlers that are out there.
Yeah.
As well as I'm sure taking like really stupid videos from fans too.
Next week, Rochester, New York, they announced the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy against Death Triangle. The Exalted One will reveal himself. And the Inner Circle will take on the Elite in a 6-man tag, but they did not announce which members of each faction would participate in that match.
And that's for the advantage for the Blood and Guts match.
Yeah, they said the winner would go in with an advantage into Blood and Guts.
It's the coin toss. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they went on to announce the rules for Blood and Guts. So get this, everyone, if you have your pad of paper and pencil. 2 men enter the cage for a 5-minute round. Then every 2 minutes, a new entrant comes in. The match will officially begin when all 10 men enter, and the winning team will be determined by the opponent submitting or surrendering.
Yes. So
it's War Games.
Yeah. Traditional War Games rules. I mean,
I thought we were getting some deviation, the fact that they promoted these rules a week in advance, but no, these are the War Games rules.
The fact that they said, you think you know the rules, but you really don't.
They did say that last week.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're thinking that all the people that know War Games are recent WWE or NXT fans from like 2 years.
There's a roof. There's a roof on this one to differentiate it from the WWE's version now.
And it's 5-on-5 rather than like trios. Wait, that was the last one was 5-on-5, wasn't it?
Yes. The first one, the NXT one was the first NXT one they did was trios. But
right.
This past year, yeah, it was 5-on-5.
Okay. Well, there's a roof.
Jim Ross is with John Moxley. They did a nice fireside chat. He has not been physically cleared after last week's powerbomb by the Shield, and he's pissed off. Jim Ross asks him, how do you deal with 5-1 odds? And he isolates Jake Hager. He tells Hager to step into the batter's box, bitch. And Hager has hit him harder than anyone. He asks, what are your plans for Newark with the Blood and Guts match happening? He says he's in the Inner Circle's blind spot as they prepare for the Elite. And they better be aware of that.
Well, so he's supposed to be right now in Ireland, or he's supposed to be in Ireland this weekend?
He's supposed to be going to Ireland this weekend.
Okay. Along with Pac.
Yes. I guess would be, card subject to change, because who knows if that will happen or not. I'm sure
you could always fly out of the UK. I'm sure AEW will, especially with Tony Khan with his connections out there, they'll be able to get him back if need be. But yeah.
Let me ask you this, and I asked you this the other night. In light of everything, do you want your performers going over there? If there's any potential threat that could,
it's true.
If you come back and God forbid, and I'm worried that this will happen, like a wrestler that contracts this, and then suddenly in your locker room, you guys have to quarantine yourselves.
Well, this is what the NBA has been going through this evening. I'm sure mass panic going on.
I can tell you that if I was Tony Khan right now, my talent is only doing my show because I am not risking anything for my 2-hour program I've got to do every week, and I would not be adding any potential threat to that. And that would upset a lot of people, but I could totally understand that that significant of a response.
I'm sure a lot of closed-door meetings are occurring right now about what to do.
There's so much in the air. There's so much up in the air.
Mania weekend, like so much is unknown right now that in the next 24 to 48 hours will change completely. So I'm sure maybe they're thinking about contingency plans, but it's an important reminder that just because somebody is a performer on national TV doesn't mean that they're immune to the risks involved in going to an airport or any sort of public place. So you're right. It is a bigger concern.
Yeah. So this was just kind of setting things up that it looks like Moxley, he'll probably go after various members of the Inner Circle, starting with Jake Hager.
Cool. I like it.
Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara against Hangman Page and mystery partner Dustin Rhodes. Jericho grabbed a fan's beer and then got struck by Page, and Page guzzled down the beer. And I would maybe be eliminating this spot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Angel Garza kissing random people in the front row. I think that's got to go as well.
Like literally just, this is not so much a WWE thing, but just, slapping hands and stuff. Like, I think it doesn't sound silly today. Maybe 24 hours ago it did. It certainly does not now.
Even if like the risk involved in something like that might be medically, statistically low, I think it's just a turnoff if you're watching as a fan. It's not like the cool babyface moment that maybe it's intended to be, at least not for me.
They got the heat on Dustin, went through the break. Jericho went for a lion salt and landed on the legs of Dustin, who was trying to get his knees up. Page comes in, moonsault to the floor, then goes for the buckshot lariat, and Jericho stops and applies the walls, which Dustin breaks up, and it culminates with Dustin hitting the destroyer onto Sammy Guevara into the buckshot lariat, and Hangman Page pins Sammy Guevara, who just seems to be the designated fall guy.
Unfortunately, but it didn't affect his match with Darby at all.
Nope.
So...
And this was a great finish, I thought. The destroyer buckshot lariat combo.
Mm-hmm. A lot of flipping. So I don't have much to say about the rest of the match. I couldn't have been less interested, unfortunately, just given everything else that was going on. So I apologize.
Yeah, this was... our minds were certainly elsewhere during this last half. The Inner Circle jumps them. Kenny Omega runs in, Cody runs in, and the Inner Circle gains the advantage. Cody gets suplexed on the ramp as revenge from Ortiz from earlier in the night. They attack with a chair, and then they drag Hangman up to the top of the ramp, and they're going to powerbomb him off the stage. When Matt Jackson returns, they had thought he had left for the hospital, but he's back. Jericho then comes and destroys Page and Matt Jackson with chair shots, and they put the chair into the seated position, sit over top a fallen Matt Jackson and Hangman Page. They pose with the middle fingers while Kenny is done, or Kenny's in the ring selling, and Cody is down on the ramp. And the Inner Circle for the second straight week stand tall, which I think they're going to put all this heat on the Inner Circle leading into Blood and Guts. So that is how the show concluded.
I really liked the closing angle. I thought it was really well done. I love that they continue to build this rivalry between Matt Jackson and Hangman Page, even though they've already announced that these guys will be teaming up together for that Blood and Guts match. But the tension has just been magnificent, coming off of the tag team match and then just continuing to build here. And I love the way they structured this because it was Hangman Page in trouble, and it ended up being Matt Jackson saving him. But Matt couldn't care less about Page. He was just simply out here getting revenge for his brother. And, the fact that they were able to kind of like interweave everything together while still making sense of all their characters, I really liked. I think things like this will at least temporarily force the Elite to bond together, but I really like the way that they're still separating Matt and Page.
Yes. It was a good main event. Mainly it was, the focus was the post-match angle and just building up this Blood and Guts match to be, a really, really big episode on March 25th that Jim Ross was saying was like a pay-per-view with all the tickets that they've sold and putting, a pay-per-view level match in this Blood and Guts match on TV. So that's going to be a big. And I also think just the tease of this Exalted one next week, I think that, providing everything goes ahead next week, that they could really do a number next week with the Exalted one reveal and kind of building up to that on next week's show.
We shall see. I mean, I feel like tonight's number you could pretty much throw out, couldn't you? With Trump and...
I would imagine that, especially from 9 p.m. onward, when Trump was doing the address, that there was probably a lot of people tuning out of wrestling tonight. I would think that would be very likely.
Yeah. I felt like tonight's episode, still unable to reach the heights of the pre-Revolution episodes. I mean, it still very much feels like it's sort of a beginning stages of their next cycle. But I think all the important pieces for Blood and Guts were put into place very well. I didn't think there were any hot promos, no matches that I felt were must see either. But it was like last week, a show that I think got the important things in motion.
All right, that was Dynamite. And did we get feedback tonight?
Yes, we did.
Okay, well let's see what everyone had to say on the forum tonight. Starting with the poll.
So on our forum.postwrestling.com, our patrons voted AEW Dynamite this week a 7.44 out of 10.
All right.
We got a Paul from New Jersey who says, I found the opening incredibly boring, but there was a lot to like tonight. 2 really good 6-mans, which usually aren't my favorite. Baker and Tony are fun, but I thought Swole really shined here. Big highlight of the night for me was Christopher Daniels. Not only was it a different promo, but it was well done. Sean Spears fans submitting tag requests and a killer promo from Mox. One company is thinking outside of the box, while the other seems like a broken mechanical spider in said box at times.
Okay. Noah from Vaughn, good show, 7 out of 10. Couldn't focus at all with the news going on. NBA season suspended. Things are just crazy right now. I 100% think AEW and WWE should be postponing events. This coronavirus is not a joke and should not be treated lightly. I'd rather this be proven to be an overreaction than an underreaction. I definitely agree with that last point. And certainly it would be foolish not to think that, next week AEW may be facing that's kind of situation that this will affect them next week when they're scheduled to go to Rochester.
Well, SmackDown being moved to the Performance Center is, I think,
that's telling right there.
Move. Very telling that I think, other companies, I mean, and especially its competitor in AEW might be expected to follow suit. So it might even happen very quickly. So, yeah, we shall see. Alex from Portland says, another show for me. Lance Archer, one of the more intense wrestlers over the past year, debuts by sitting down and watching a match. While I get AEW not wanting to start on Archer Cody until after Blood and Guts, could Archer not have had a quick squash? Well, I'm sure they'll be good. I can't say I'm looking forward to Daniels and the Dark Order having matches. And that main event, while the Inner Circle was beating down everybody in the ring, we were told by Excalibur that everyone in the Elite went to hospital to check on Nick. But then less than a minute later, Cody and Kenny came out. Then another minute passes and Matt comes out. Is it me or do these guys come across as major asses not being at the hospital when Nick was carted out earlier? I didn't really think about that personally. Did it bother you, John?
Coming out at the end? No, I think you...
Did it make him seem insensitive to Nick Jackson?
Maybe he was okay. Maybe he wanted Matt to go back.
Maybe the hospital was right next door.
It could have been local. I mean, Matt has other duties. He's an EVP.
Yeah.
I'm glad Lance didn't wrestle on this show. I mean, just the appearance was enough for week 1.
Me too. I think, we've seen them, especially when they build up their heavies, they like to take their time, make them mysterious, and then when it comes down to actually have them debut, like in the case of a Wardlow, it feels like it's a big deal. So I didn't mind it personally. He says he's got a question. What do you think of the idea of the Ascension being part of the Dark Order? Well, neither guy wrestles like you'd expect from AEW. They have a proven track record with Cody and Pac. Plus, I feel their character work could earn them a spot.
I think that there's 2 ways of looking at this. Number one, I think everyone's first reaction is you don't want to be TNA, and that anytime ex-WWE talent, especially ones that did not succeed in WWE, you go after and bring in. Now, there's the counter argument that talent that failed in the WWE system for whatever myriad reasons to come in and then suddenly you prove them wrong and can showcase that look what we made out of what you gave up on. Was
usually, John, though that comes with guys proving themselves on the indies before entering, a major promotion.
Well, I would say the Ascension would not be on my list to be going after. There would be very few names at the moment that I'd be going after. I'm pretty content with the roster AEW has, the names they have to get over. And, it's always a case-by-case basis that you look at, okay, can we make an exception here or there? But I would be very cautious about just anyone that has a WWE name attached to them of just scooping them up.
I agree. I absolutely agree, especially when it comes to the Ascension, who I really don't think will add anything. I mean, the complaint right now is that there are way too many dark and brooding teams anyway. I think there are plenty of other people you could fit into this Dark Order role if you really had to. I mean,
you have Butcher and the Blade. Like,
dude, you got
Jimmy Havoc. Take your thoughts for them and apply it to those guys. They need it, and you have them.
Butcher and the Blade. You could put Jimmy Havoc in there. You could put Luther in there. There's plenty of people. Like the Dark Order is not in a shortage of dark members to add to their numbers.
Can we get like some?
How about the Light Order?
The Light Order, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like the brightness.
The Bright Order, yes, sure.
Right. Yeah. Doug from Derbyshire in the UK. Another exciting, well-paced show featuring quality matches throughout the show. So hot, I thought they would combust. It felt like the women were starting to gel a bit better tonight, with Hikaru Shida providing her strongest outing since the 6-woman tag at Double or Nothing. The video packages were all of the usual high quality, with Daniel's Screw the Dark Order providing a few good laughs. Not quite as many as today's episode of Free the Delete, though. I've been a fan of the trios matches since my days of watching Chikara a decade ago, so their gradual introduction to the AEW weekly broadcast gets thumbs up from me. Jericho and Sammy are proving to be a highly enjoyable team, and the main event was a satisfying peak for the show with a hot post-match beatdown. As usual, AEW have left me looking forward to next week's show. 8 out of 10 for me, with the line of the night being Nyla Rose shouting, "Tap, you stupid alien," at Chris Statlander from the apron.
We go to the Saucy Duke, who says, "This was a dull episode by Dynamite standards. It's frustrating seeing everything I liked from last week put on the back burner to reheat the Inner Circle Elite feud. The show opening and closing angles felt like beat-for-beat remakes of things we've seen before. That's Lance Archer's debut. Could it have been any colder? I seriously had to edit this bit in the feedback because I completely forgot he was actually on the show. Awful. What Shida got to do to get a break in this company? Maybe they're saving her for the next pay-per-view, but then why beat her clean? And if they're not saving her, what's the issue? She's been consistently sidelined for flavors of the month like Emi Sakura, Chris Statlander, and now Bea Priestley. I was seriously confused about why Big Swole was talking about her husband and was shocked to discover she's married to Cedric Alexander. Is that common knowledge, or am I right in thinking most of the audience wouldn't know that? I think you're right. Yeah. I think most of the people watching TNT, AEW, 800,000, 900,000, I'm willing to bet more than 50% of those people don't know that Big Swole is married to Cedric. That said, those who did know, I thought probably really enjoyed the comment.
Yeah. Or people were Googling it immediately afterwards.
Yeah, or they just didn't care.
And the last one is Tyler Crane from Salt Lake City. What's up, guys? I attended the show live. It was pretty fun. I don't know how it came across on TV, but the live crowd was pretty loud and energetic throughout the whole show. Cody was super over live. It was great seeing Jake the Snake paired with Lance Archer. Jake is the perfect mouthpiece for him, and it should make for a great feud with Cody. My personal match of the night was Joey Janela and Private Party against Death Triangle. Main event was fun live. Jericho remains super great, and what he does with Hangman Page is over as hell. All in all, great live experience. Keep up the great work.
What do you feel about the pairing of Lance Archer with Jake Roberts?
I'm fine with it. I want to see where it progresses. It automatically tells you that Lance Archer is not just, going to be anything trivial on the show if you're investing a mouthpiece with him and Jake. And it seems like at least getting some kind of program with Cody off the bat. So I think, it remains to be seen. I'm really looking forward to just give me Arn and Jake in one segment together in the ring. That's what I want.
I think that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the bigger battles will be really between like Jake and Cody on the microphone. I wait to see what sort of chemistry like Lance Archer will have with Jake Roberts. I mean, Archer isn't necessarily somebody I would have said, oh, that guy needs a manager. I feel like he would have been perfectly fine on his own, but certainly it doesn't really help having Jake. The problem with Jake, though, is that, like, he's so damn tall that, like, Archer's size it might not be as impressive with Jake standing next to him. So maybe he can just, like, crouch or do the splits.
One other thing, our man Joel sent in the fight version of Dynamite tonight, and really there's nothing to mention. In fact, in some of the commercials, he mentioned like it was just like ambient sound and crowd shots for some of the in-between segments, and like it seems like they have really lessened the amount of content that they're putting into those commercial breaks. Like there's really, it was like matches continuing, beat down onto like just there's very little here to convey, like nothing significant.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is it, everyone. We're going to be back on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time with the Cafe Hangout that you can listen to live if you're a member of the Cafe. Benno will be joining us. Alex Patel will also be on with us as well. And we'll have all the latest on whatever happens tomorrow. I'm sure, this is a developing story, and I'm sure that there's going to be many updates to go through by Thursday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Things will be very different. So, again, everybody, let's do one more time, John. Inhale. And exhale. We'll get through it.